Hello YouTube, welcome to the Nether Beast Character Study Part 4. As promised, this is a special Christmas gift to you, 2 character studies in the same week back to back. As I said in the blowhole video, this is not going to be something that I do on a regular basis, it's special, and this is going to represent a frequency that I'm going to stick to when it comes to the discrepancy between the 2 types of character studies. I'll do the blowhole ones once a month, and the Nether Beast ones once every 2 months, because I have much less to say about Nether, even though I have a lot of juicy ments for you guys. So, before we start, because I like to introduce the videos, I'm going to say 2 things. One, I'm going to reveal something pretty funny that happened recently with Nether, and 2, I'm going to respond to one of Nether's fanboys or nuthuggers, whatever you want to call them, because it's going to give me a good basis to start the video off from, and because it's always good to talk about the reasons why those videos are being made and also address some points that detractors might raise. Because unlike Blowhole, who has to do the dirty job himself and he has to rate the videos himself with sock accounts, Nether actually still has people who are dedicated to him, who will go to other channel and defend him. And sometimes in my comments, it's going to be 5, 6 people, sometimes up to 10. So he still has a pretty decent fan base, a pretty decent base of devoted people who are willing to do the work for him. But he recently decided to do the work himself because he was actually seen in my comments. He's sort of like Bigfoot. He appears in the wild once in a while, and he was spotted on one of my videos where he left a passive-aggressive comment and then he just didn't answer when people actually tried to engage with him. And he left a dislike as well, of course, without watching the video, because he is exactly like Blowhole. They are peas in a pod. They are the exact same person with small differences. And up until very recently, I thought that Nether was not as bad as Blowhole. But I came to realize one thing. He is just as terrible. The only difference between the two is that Blowhole enjoyed a lot of popularity and it got to his head, and that level of audience that he had allowed him to really express how terrible of a person he is. Never really reached that level of popularity, so he never got the chance. But I can tell you with almost certainty that if the Alpha Destiny debacle never happened, and if Nether managed to just shut his big mouth and ride the wave of YouTube fitness, he would have gotten to the point of being a quintessential lol cow at the level of Blahino. Because the two of them cannot stop lying. It's insane. Every time I watch a video of one or the other, I have a piece of paper in my hand and I write something down every time they lie, and the piece gets covered every single time. It's also the reason why I started these character studies thinking that there would be like 3 episodes, 4 episodes. I think we're going to keep going because every time I watch one of his Q&As, I get more information. So yeah, he appeared on the channel. I don't know if he has seen those character studies. If he has, Nether, please answer. Give information. When I say something that I quote directly from you, give us more info, all right? I want you to explain some of those things. And some of the things I'm going to discuss in this video, I especially want to hear because it's really out there. And in terms of fanboys, and again, understand that when I say fanboys, I truly mean it to be as demeaning as possible, because to me, fanboyism is a mental illness, especially when you follow people like Blow or Nether, which are pathological liar and clearly demented, and you can't even see that. So we have someone here who actually made a response video that he then deleted apparently, because I debunked all of it, who posted another comment. And I'm going to go through it because it's a perfect example of the mindset of these individuals who follow Nether. So that person that I'm going to not cite, if they want to actually reveal themselves in the comment of this video, fine, it's up to you, tells me that I repeat the same things over and over, which I think is not fair because I have timestamps that prove that I have topics. He tells me that he likes my stuff, but that is classical concern trolling. It's a tactic that I'm very familiar with. That's when you say, oh, I used to like you, but. And what they do when they do that is they try and create an emotional connection and they try to shame you into making you believe you changed. I never changed. This is what the channel is about. I call out fakeness and I talk about what's real. And that falls perfectly within the lines of those character studies, because Nether is a pathological liar. And it's funny too, because when I started the channel, there's a lot of people who gravitate around underground YouTube fitness, and a lot of them are looking for their new messiah, meaning that they're not really following Nether anymore, but they want someone else. They want someone that resembles him. And some people thought I was that guy, because I'm training in a garage. It looks rough, it looks raw. I'm real in my videos. I don't really edit, and so they were basically propping me up as that guy that I wasn't. And eventually, when I revealed my cards and I told them, look, all of what you think is true, I think it is BS, a lot of them got upset and left because they are looking for that new Jesus, and I'm just not that guy. And I think that guy falls into the same line of thinking. Tells me that I pull things out of my ass. Everything I say is directly from his videos, which if you're a fanboy, you've seen his videos, so you know what I say is true. And if there are things that you think are fake, let me know, quote them, and I'll give you the timestamp of his videos because they're all available on Mirror channel. I can prove everything I say. And then he says that I have some good points. So apparently I pull everything out of my ass, but I have some good points. Those 2 points don't go together, but of course, coming from someone who's an hypocrite, I'm not surprised. He tells me it's unimportant from his perspective. Oh, look at that, a fanboy who would forgive and forget anything that their idol does. How strange, how funny. It's like it's the first time it's ever happened in history. You are delusional. And he tells me about the lost weight, the weight loss that I talk about, the fact that he lost 50 pounds. He tells me that he won't make a reply video, but maybe he will. You do whatever you want. And then he compares my channel with his, and he says, you have the same views. I've heard blowhole fanboys say the same thing and say that we preach the same things. We don't. And the fact that you think like this shows that you have a herd mentality and that you're incapable of seeing nuances. Just because I preach compound movements does not mean that me and blowhole are similar. Just because I preach having an open mind does not mean that me and Nether are similar. Those are really wide point of views. Just because I share them with someone does not mean that we are equals at all. You need to really focus when you listen to what people say. And the issue too with that mindset is it attributes techniques and ideologies to people, which is stupid. Ideas exist in nature and nothing belongs to Nether. He didn't invent the fact of not being a dogmatic dog. It's something that should be widespread. It's not, but it's also the reason why he managed to fool all of you guys, some of the people who are watching this video, into believing him and following him, is because he was representing something that you could feel was real, but he himself wasn't. He just smelled that there was a market and he tried to get that market, and he made it. Actually, he made money off of it. So he got you fooled. Then he calls me a limited thinking guy. Again, ad hominems are the last resort of people who have no arguments. And that's very important. He tells me that I found a nice opportunity to make drama videos. Is it what I do? I thought that you like my content, so you must watch the channel. Is it what I do? Do I make drama videos? No. Everyone else on YouTube Fitness does drama videos for views because it's what works. It's how you grow a channel. I go a different route. I never put names in my title. I don't clickbait. I don't name drop because I'm not interested. I talk about concepts, not people. And the very few times where I talk about people, I talk about complete nobodies. No one cares about Blow anymore. It's not 2016. No one cares about Nether. If I made those videos in 2017, then yes, you could have accused me of trying to get clout, like the Zoomers would say, but now, the guy is but forgotten. If anything, those character studies are the last thing that keep him alive on YouTube Fitness, because he's completely dead. So how am I making drama videos for attention? Those videos get 1,000 views. The few people who watch them are Nether fanboys because deep down, and that's also what I want to say, you watch those videos. If you truly believe that he was your hero and he had no fault, you wouldn't watch the video. You'd think, okay, that's bullshit, and you'll just skip it. And yet you watch all of it. Why? Because deep down you know that that guy is a fraud, and you are yet to be persuaded, and you eventually will be persuaded if you keep watching those videos. Or you can be put off by my tone and think, oh, he's mean, and just leave, which is possible. I mean, a lot of people react like that. And he also says that probably more than posing that you say draws so much. So basically he's saying those videos make more views than the videos that I make when I show my body. which is demonstratively false, just look at the number. I have a video where I show my abs that got 50k views out of nowhere. Those videos get 1,000 views. My training videos get more views than these, which are 20 seconds long. So again, what you say is false, but you're trying to present me as someone who is hungry for clicks, hungry for fame, and the issue is that it doesn't resonate because I'm the exact opposite of that. But funnily enough, that looks like projection because that's what Nether was. When he begged every single YouTube fitness YouTuber to get an interview or to get a shout out until he got one from Alpha Destiny that he then betrayed. Remember that? Yeah, I remember that, and Alpha Destiny also remembers that. Then he goes into a weird rant about anime, and he says that's why you like anime, to safely explore more expensive ideas. That's the concept of literature and media. It's to be able to explore ideas. Anime is not limited to that. And also, Nether also likes anime, just in case you are going to bash anime as something for children or something. And then he says I twist things, which in a sense is acceptable. I twist things to make them funny, because I just don't want this to be a documentary of sorts. But keep in mind that everything I say is verifiable, so I don't twist the truth, I just present it in a way that's funny. And that's that. So that's the end of the message. I just wanted to put it out there because it's a good introduction, because what we're going to get into today is actually going to be quite delicious. You see, it's Christmas, and in the spirit of the holidays, I wanted to make something fun for you guys to consume. And I know that a lot of people actually like those character studies because it's like listening to a tale in a sense. So I'm going to open with a quote, and again, it's directly quoted from him, from the Nether Beast itself. I will build the best natty physique that has ever existed. That's from him. That's what he said, and that's what he said recently. That's not what he said when he was juiced up. This is a very recent quote when he was still skeleton status, because now he has jumped back on the bodybuilding train, because I think he sort of tried the MMA thing for 2 months, but the issue with MMA is you can't just inject steroids in your arm and then become good at fighting. You actually have to train. And the thing too is that even though his nuthuggers didn't call him out because they know nothing about fighting, I think that he realized that just posting videos of him training and punching a bunch of garbage in his backyard wasn't going to get him attention. And so he's trying to get back onto the bodybuilding thing because it allows him to use his body as a prop. And if you don't believe me, if you think that I'm, again, affabulating, remember what he used to do on the old channel. Look at his thumbnails back then. It was all pictures of his body. What was his selling point? That he was big. That was his one selling point. And then it sort of grabbed people into the whole, oh, he's a shamanic deity, he has great ideas for bodybuilding. But all of the great ideas came from the fact that his body was big, which was sort of, quote unquote, a way for him to prove that he knew what he was talking about. And the issue is that he got a lot of attention from it. It died because, of course, just like with any narcissistic demeanor or behaviors, they're not patient and they have a very tough time planning things patiently. And therefore, he just blew it completely, just like Bloho blew it in the past when he had 50k subs out of nowhere and he managed to just completely sabotage his own life. Nether did the same thing. And now he's sort of trying to get back onto the train, which also shows that this type of individuals never learn, because Nether will never be able to put foot in YouTube fitness ever again. I can guarantee you that. His channel is not growing, and I think he's realized that because he's been stagnating at 300 subs. I think he wasn't prepared for the brutality of YouTube fitness nowadays, where your channel will not grow. No matter what you do, you can upload 50 videos a day. If the algorithm doesn't like you, your channel will not grow. And the only way to get the algorithm to actually like you is for people to click. And for them to click, you need to have thumbnails that are attractive. And so what he started doing is, he started to recycle old thumbnails, pictures from back when he was on steroids, to get attention. For anyone who's watching his content and his channel, don't you feel fooled by that? The guy is a turbo skeleton, and yet he utilizes pictures back when he was 230, 240. To this day, if you go on his channel, because he's back on the bodybuilding thing now, and you look at his bodybuilding update, look at what they are. It's like a photo montage of a bunch of low quality picture, like low resolution pictures that are very tiny on the screen, and you see the guy on paint who goes around with like a red marker to show you what you're supposed to look at. all of these pictures, some of them are zoomed in, some of them are doctored, some of them are blurry on purpose, some of them are not even from the present, they're from the past, because he's not showing you his body in video. He is doing what he's always done, which is he lies, plays with angles, and he just never reveals the truth. Just like back when he had 20 inches arms that he never really showed on camera. I have yet to find that video. I have 5 guys who came into the comments like, I have the video. Where is the video? I'm still waiting. The point being that he again is lying. And I don't know why he would document his growth like this with pictures, but he's trying to present it as if he was growing rapidly again, which unless he's taking steroids, is not really going to happen because he doesn't know how to train. So you'll see that this entire road to bodybuilding, the entire road to build the best natty physique that has ever existed, what a quote, is just going to end up in smoke again. And that quote should tell you that he is a grandiose narcissist. And I will insist on that because it's, one, extremely funny because it's the exact opposite of Bloho, who is a vulnerable narcissist. But at the end of the day, they have similar traits. And 2, it explains a lot of his behaviors. One thing that struck me in one of his videos that are highly correlated with psychopathic behaviors is the fact that he tends to get excited when talking about potential ways to defeat mob violence. And to me, that Bloho is the same way. It's a way for men who don't feel very secure about themselves to project an image of masculinity. Because it's very easy to say, oh, if I get into a fight, I will destroy the guy, I will stomp his head onto the ground. And it's a different thing to actually get into a fight and do those things. And the quote that I'm talking about was Nether reflecting upon a situation where society collapses and he has to defend his family. Which, again, the type of people who fantasize about the society collapsing tend to be people who do very poorly within that society. So it's sort of it's a dream for them, right? It's not really something that they fear because it's the equivalent of playing Monopoly with a toddler. When they start losing, the only thing they want to do is flip the board because they lost. So they don't want to abide by the rules anymore. And Nether is the same. He didn't make it in the capitalist society we live in, which is also for the people who don't like capitalism, competition. So if you didn't make it, it's also that you're just bad at competing with other people. And when he fantasizes about this entire thing crumbling down, he thinks of himself as the badass with the gun that is going to save the day. I highly doubt that's going to happen, but based on what he said, he claimed he started shooting guns when he was 13, he owns lots of them, and he even makes his own weapons. Doesn't that remind you of someone? That reminds me of some 5'7" guy with a bald head, but he's not bald, who also has an obsession with guns. He's the exact same as Bloho. It's insane how that type of, and I'm sorry for everyone who's white, and I'm white too, but it tends to be white dudes who have that obsession with guns as if it made them manly and alpha. And the same claim too, like Bloho used to say he shot at 1,000 yards when he was still in high school. That guy said he started shooting when he was 13. That he makes his own guns. I would pay to see the type of weapons he makes himself, because when you look at the makeshift gym equipment he crafts, I can only imagine what type of just advanced engineering that the Nether brain can get away with. And I'm sort of projecting right now, but I'm picturing the day where his nuthuggers meet him on his island and they start a tribe and they start making weapons together. They would be a very interesting case study because they would recreate the way humans evolved throughout the age, the way hunter-gatherers actually created weapons, because they would start from scratch, most likely. It's also interesting to see that someone who seems to be struggling with money has a lot of guns. Guns are expensive. You're supposed to sell them if your family is struggling, which is what Bloho did actually. There's a lot of crossovers in here. Another similarity is they both cannot pronounce Muay Thai. How tough it is to say Muay Thai. It's not Muay Thai, it's not Mai Tai, which is what Nether says. For some reason he says Mai Tai. It's Muay Thai, okay? Again, reminds you of someone. Bloho is the same way, he says Muay Thai. I think for Bloho it's a Pavlovian reflex because he thinks about his friend the cow and so he goes moo, or it's just all of the estrogen in his body, he's transitioning into a cow, I don't know. In terms of fighting sports, another cope from Mr. Nether, who has no money, is that he claimed that buying boxing equipment is a waste because he would destroy it with his heavy kicks. I hate to repeat myself, but doesn't that remind you of Blahino, who used to say that he couldn't get into a fight because he could box squat 600 pounds and therefore he would kill someone with a kick? There are professional fighters who kick heavy bags every day for 10 years. The heavy bag is still there. Who is Nether? Who is going to be that guy that destroys a heavy bag with a kick? It's not possible. Those things can be destroyed with a knife if you're a psycho, not with a kick. And of course, I hope he knows this. I hope he doesn't really believe that he can destroy a heavy bag with a kick. But because he doesn't have the money for one, he of course has to find an excuse. He can't just say, oh, I can't afford it. No, it's because he's too powerful, so he would destroy the equipment, of course. That's the reason why he made a makeshift sandbag is the best term I can use. It's like a tower. So he has like a pillar and he puts wheels on it, he put tires on it, and he thinks that's a sandbag. I'm going to geek out a little bit here, but for people who know how to fight, who train with a bag, the point of the bag is that you can have your feet underneath the bag. So your hips can rotate into the bag. The issue with what he made is that he's away from it. So every single punch he lands is going to be a harm punch because he can't put his hips or back into it because he's way too far from the thing. And the worst part is that he could have avoided that. If he really knew how to fight, he would have put 1 or 2 tires on top and left space underneath for his feet to be able to slide in. He didn't do that. He just made a tower. That shows that he doesn't know how to fight. Because if he knew, he would have done that. And therefore, he ends up just pummeling a weird tower in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the jungle. That has 0 carryovers to fighting. This is not how you fight. And he would know that if he actually was a good fighter. And it's the reason why also I think he's giving up on the MMA LARP is because he's realized that one, he can't fool people anymore, and I think it's starting to get to him a little bit because he has realized that it's not going to get him anywhere. At this point, he's way too old. An MMA career is not on the cards. So the last thing he has is to become a YouTube celery and be a bodybuilding icon and just swindle people of their money again. Because he's going to try and continue to do that because it's the last thing he has. In terms of advice, in terms of stupid advice, last time we spoke about a guy who was a teenager who asked Nether, hey, how do I grow my ankles or my wrist? And Nether told him, oh, just take a clamp, like just take something to screw and just, squeeze it real tight and that is going to grow your wrist. Well, in line with that, Nether told someone who wanted to develop their hamstrings to attach 10-pound weights to their ankle and do sprints with them. For anyone who's ever done sprints in their program or to build their athleticism, does that sound like a good idea? Sounds like a way to tear an hamstring to me. It's of course terrible. There's a reason why no one does that. There's a reason why also pro sprinters don't do that, is because it's a terrible way to add resistance. Because that's not how a sprint works. This is just going to A, destroy your sprinting form, and 2, put a lot of tension on the tendons of the knees and the ankles. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but again, if you take advice from this guy, this is the type of stuff that he's telling you to do. Do you really think you should be following what he says? He's interested in sun gazing. Do I really need to go further? I mean, I just want to go back to the fanboy's message, but you told me to look deep into what Nether says. I'm looking deep, and I'm looking at an idiot. Sun gazing, really? You're going to go out there and just look at the sun? What is the point? I mean, if you just want to lose your eyesight, just pour bleach in there. It takes less time. It's going to be less painful over time. It's funny too because there is a concordance between the Sverige guy, Sverige, I don't know how to pronounce that, and Nether, and they look alike too. So I wonder if there is a word or a universe in this realm where they actually cross paths and they actually collab. It would be interesting. But yeah, that's the entire sun gazing thing. So great. He says that fight records are stupid and mean nothing. You tell that to a professional fighter, they're going to tell you immediately that that's BS. But of course, again, it's a cope. It's a coping mechanism from Nether because his record, if you look at his record, he has more losses than wins. So of course it's stupid because he couldn't do it. Do you see a pattern here? Every time he does something poorly or he's not good at it, it's someone else's fault or it's stupid. This is someone that refuses to take responsibility for their failures. This is someone who is a narcissist. He can do no wrong. Society is at fault. It's never his fault. And in terms of parallels with Bloho as well, Bloho is also saying the same thing for powerlifting. For people who follow him because he's strong, he doesn't like modern powerlifting. He said multiple times that he doesn't like the weight classes, that totals mean nothing anymore, and it's the reason why he doesn't compete. They're both LARPers who are quote-unquote competing in sports that they don't really participate in, that they're fringe components of because no one associates with them. They never really proved in a fight or on the platform that they actually can do anything with their training, with their advanced training that makes them geniuses and light years ahead of the competition, and yet they cannot seem to win or actually be competitive in it. And when all of that crumbles, to protect their ego, what do they say? Oh, it's all stupid anyways. How do you measure a fighter's worth? By how many wins he has. It's pretty basic stuff. If a fighter has more losses than wins, it's a bad fighter. Over time, you can see the career of the fighter evolve, etc. But Nether shouldn't even open his mouth about the topic because he doesn't have a career. He was never an MMA fighter. And we'll get to that, but he claims to have an underground career. How convenient. A career that we cannot trace, we cannot see the combat, where he was apparently amazing. So the guy who got his butt kicked in an amateur MMA tournament was the genius and the god of the underground MMA fights. Sure, makes a ton of sense. Just like Bloho, who's a complete wimp on camera, who hates pain, was somehow the toughest mercenary in the USA, was deckled. All of his comrades thought he was the most badass guy. He was that boy Hemingway with the 308. Of course, that makes a ton of sense. It doesn't sound at all as a fabrication that is used to replace a failed identity and a failed life as a male. He also claims to have higher testosterone levels now that when he was 60 pounds heavier and looked like a grizzly bear, now that he looks like a skeleton, and he uses hair on his neck as proof. So in the entire scope of discussing test levels and discussing hormonal profiles, there's a lot of stupidity. And some of the most stupid things are going to be to attribute certain traits that can just be caused by anything other than your hormonal profile and say, oh, look at this, it means I'm high test. First off, I want to say that people who brag about being high test is stupid because at the end of the day, who cares? You got there, great, you have high testosterone, super. You either had good genetics to start with, or you did the work and you got to a level that makes you muscular. It's nothing to brag about. But of course, when it's the last thing you have on earth and you have nothing else to do, you're going to brag about that stuff. I also want to say that pilosity is not directly correlated with testosterone levels at all. Especially just hair on your neck. That's the type of stuff you get when you get old. Okay, Nether, you're getting old. That should also ring a bell in there. You're old. Stop LARPing on the internet. It's time to move on and to get a job and to just snap out of your delusions. The hair on your neck means nothing. You're skinny at this point. Who cares if your supposed test levels are high? If they don't correlate into muscles, what is the point? He said, hurts me to even utter those words because I love the sport. He said pro boxing is bullshit. Coming from someone who barely had 3 fights in MMA that's rich, and of course, I think he says that because he might have tried pro boxing at some point, and knowing how he is and the way his body is shaped, he strikes me as the type of guy who was way too rigid. And you see those guys when you train boxing, they show up and they tend to have some mass or they tend to have some strength, and they think it's going to carry over, but they're like this in the ring. And in the ring, you have to be flexible. You have to be smooth because the power comes from the hips. And if you're just like this, one, your punches are telegraphed, and two, they're small. You don't have any power in them. And most likely he got pummeled by some guy who was much smaller, just as it happened to me. I was in the same category. Difference is, I took it as something that would be beneficial for me because I could learn to get better. He took it as, oh, it's bullshit. I'm bad at it, it's bad. Okay, great. His justification was sort of receivable, meaning that he was saying that they were fighting each other and punching each other with gloves, which heightens the risk of concussion over time. And I agree. But the issue is that he presented that as, oh, they should fight without the gloves. Because it's what real men do. You fight without the gloves. Yeah, we stopped bare knuckle fighting for a reason. It's because these guys, they cut. A lot of people lost their eyes. They had nerve damage in their face. They could never eat again because they got a cut with a knuckle. So I do understand that pro boxing is not the best in terms of longevity, but you can't just say it's bullshit out of the blue, especially when you've never proved anything. He really strikes me as someone who's a hater. And to me, that also shows that this entire enlightened Buddha mentality that he was trying to present was just a facade. And it kills me that people even fell for that because he contradicts it every single time he opens his mouth. He's like, bro, if you ask him about a topic, if he doesn't like it, it's going to be bad. He's always going to find a way to make it appear bad because he just doesn't get it. And you know what is Christmas? It's not on the list. It's not the next point, but I'm going to leave you with the last point. And I want to reach deep inside me so you can really feel my frustration and you can feel my disbelief. As I expose this ment, this stratospheric ment, because this is heavy stuff. So I was digging through his videos and I eventually found one that caught my attention because, and that's something I will get to later in other installments of this fake Nether, which I call the Nether Beast Character Study, where he discusses his paranormal activity type of relationships, the fact that he sees angel, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to spoil too much, but there was one video in particular that caught my fancy. And that's the video where Nether talks about the time where he got abducted by aliens. So, according to Nether, when he was younger, he was a troubled teen. He had a rough life. He was hanging out with the bad crowds, most likely doing drugs. He didn't say that, but that's what I gathered, getting drunk, etc. And he was just wasting his life away, which hasn't changed much. And what happened to him was apparently he got into a motocross accident and he destroyed his clavicle. And when the clavicle gets destroyed, it needs to be set back or else it doesn't heal properly. And because he had no money, he couldn't do it. So he would just continue his life with the messed up clavicle. And one day, he was at his job, it was nighttime, and he could sense the presence of an alien ship. There was a saucer above him, he just knew it. It just telepathy, he was connected through them because they are his first cousins, I don't know. He knew they were there, and they spoke to him directly, and they abducted him, and when they returned him, his clavicle was fixed. He was healed. And I think that in the story, he doesn't really remember if he got abducted or not, but he knows that he felt like a white light, like a warmth, and then it was fixed. And that's his story about the time where aliens fixed his body. So first off, for the nuthuggers, you really believe this guy? Do you truly believe this guy? It's an honest question. If yes, why? What is going on in your head that you believe that? May I remind you that this is also the guy that says that he is friend with Jesus and now aliens. Jesus plus aliens. Usually it's one or the other. Like, yeah, people who are wacko in the head, they pick. It's either the religion part or the aliens. Sometimes they attempt to bridge and they say, oh, Jesus was an alien. That's not what he did. So think about this logically. If and only if aliens exist. And I got into a little spew with a guy in the comments where he told me, oh, they do exist. That's not the question. There is a chance, if you look at something that I personally find interesting, like the Fermi paradox, there are proofs that statistically speaking, there's a strong chance that we either already exist in a universe with life or that we are going to encounter at some point. I'm not going to talk too much about the Fermi paradox. It's fascinating. Go look it up. But what I want to argue against is not the existence of aliens. It's their activities on Earth. Why would an advanced species with insane technology that allows them to just fix a human body, why would they fix Nether? Why him? He's just some guy who doesn't have an education working at Walgreens. You're telling me the aliens are saying to themselves, oh yeah, let's go to that guy and we're gonna fix his body. Why not a kid dying in Africa? Why not a guy dying of cancer? Why Nether? Well, I'm going to tell you why Nether. One, because it never happened. Of course it never happened. And two, he wants to be special so bad. He will find any way to explain why he's special. And the entire funny thing about it is that it goes against his marketing tactic and scheme. I exposed that before, I explained that before. He doesn't manage to reconcile the fact that he's trying to sell supplements and training tactics or strategies that are supposed to apply to everyone, and the idea that he's the chosen one. He's Nether Skywalker. He was chosen by the Force, and somehow, out of this entire universe of people, the one person that gets a free fix is Nether. He gets a free clavicle, no charges, and they just leave. I'm going to end the video on that. I just want you to reflect on that. I know that the people who are here for the Ment are having a good laugh. The people who are still attached to Nether emotionally, that's your guy across the board, okay? He truly, I don't know if he believes that in his mind, but he's trying to sell you that idea because he shared it on camera. So just reflect. I'm going to leave you with that. Today, the character study will continue. You can expect the next installment in maybe 2 months. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.